All right, well, today we are in the fourth part, really supposed to be the fifth part, but the fourth part of a series called Buzzwords. Now, if you haven't been with us, a buzzword is a word or a phrase that gets popular sometimes at a certain time, often in a certain context, like a certain place or a certain group, certain culture, and sometimes it exposes the fact that there are insiders and outsiders, right? Or it widens the gap between those that are inside that know how things work and those that are outside and don't know how things work. So I'll give you an example, right? If you've been with us for a little while, you know that I enjoy playing basketball. That is a thing for me, right? And in the world of basketball, there is a culture. There's a culture. There's a way to talk. There are things you do, there are things you don't do. So if, we go somewhere, let's say I'm with my family and we go somewhere, maybe it's a park or maybe it's, away on vacation or something, and there's a basketball court there, pretty easily, I can walk up to that court and figure out how to get myself in the game. And you know this if you've played basketball before. There's kind of a way it works. You walk over, and if there's a game going on, there's people watching, you walk over and you say, "Who's got next?" Right? You ever heard anyone say that? It's not like the best grammar, but that's what they say, right? Who's got next? That means who's up next. Then someone will be like me. My team's up next. I'm going to play the winning team. Then you say, "Do you have 5?" And if they say no, then you can ask to play, and you just kind of jump in. There's a way things work, right? So for me, like when I'm someplace and I see there's a game going on, I just kind of run over and try and get in. And if I can, I have a good time. My wife thinks it's funny because she's like, "You don't know any of these people and you're rubbing your sweaty bodies all over each other," right? And whatever, but that's how it works. Now, volleyball is very different. When I was growing up, my family used to go to this camp. It was a family camp, and there was a lake and a beach. And there were a bunch of people that would play volleyball on the beach at this camp. And I would watch every summer. I would go there and just sit in my little lounge chair with my parents, watching people play and wanting so badly for them to ask me to play. Isn't that sad? Yeah. But I didn't know. I don't know how it works. Can you just walk over there and be like, "Who's got next?" Are they friends? Do they know each other? Can I jump in? Are they going to be like, "Who is this guy? I don't know. I'm an outsider in that culture and an insider in the basketball culture. And so one's really uncomfortable. The other one, I don't even think about because I'm on the inside. The church has a culture, right? And because of that, there are people that feel like insiders and there are people that feel like outsiders. And if you're someone who's new to church or new to this church, you probably have felt, we try to minimize that gap, but I'm sure you felt that a little bit. Like you walk in, you're like, "All right, where do I go? Where's the bathroom? What am I supposed to do? When do I sit? When do I stand? Can I take this? Can I touch that?" It seems like there's some people that know what to do and those that don't know what to do. And then with that, there's language, right? There are things that people in church say, and there are things that people in church don't say, and the people that are on the inside know how and when to use the language, and the people on the outside sometimes don't. But what we've said is that often, if we're honest, even the people on the inside sometimes don't completely understand what those buzzwords, what those phrases and terms actually mean. And so you have these really rich, meaningful, practical concepts that sometimes just end up meaning nothing because we're just throwing them around. So that's been the idea of the series. We talked about words like holy, right? And if you don't understand the implications of that word, maybe you just think of places with candles, and high ceilings and things that have to do with, religion, right? And that really takes the meaning out of it. The idea of being holy, like we said a few weeks ago, is the idea of being different, set apart, in a different category. To say that God is holy is to say that he loves you in a way nobody else can. And for him to say we should be holy is like him saying, in a world that is selfish, be selfless. In a world that is, greedy, be generous. Have open hands. When everybody, stand out. Remember with the apples, if you were here, the red ones and the green one? Yes, anybody? Okay. So, holy, right? And we're looking at these words, and a lot of times, at least for me, for years, I would hear the word holy and think of so many other things and not realize how practical these things could be. So today, we're looking at another buzzword, and this might be familiar to you if you've been tracking with us for a little bit, because it's a really important concept. It is an extremely practical practical concept, super, super important. But it's often overlooked, not just in church, but in the way that we live our lives. And so here's the question I'll like throw out there, right? How do you know if someone's had a change of heart? Or how do you know if you've had a change of heart? Maybe you were in a relationship with, and then something went bad, you found something out, and it's like, okay, well, he's back, and he says he's had a change of heart. How do you know? Or maybe it's you. Maybe, you were the one who like maybe did something wrong, and, you're not proud of it. It's like, okay, I'm going to change. I've had a change of heart. But how do you know if you really did or not? If something actually changed, or is he just going to go back to doing what he did? Is she just going to go right back to doing, sometimes sometimes it's real, sometimes not. How do you know? Or how do you know when should you follow your heart? You ever heard someone tell you to follow your heart? Right? So I watched The Sandlot when I was younger. Anyone see The Sandlot? Yes? Okay. If you haven't, man, struggling. Sandlot. Okay, so I won't explain the whole movie, but there's this one scene where Benny the jet, he's like the main character, he's struggling with this big decision, difficult decision, and so he's in his room, and naturally the ghost of Babe Ruth comes out of his closet, and they have this really in-depth conversation, and Babe Ruth ends by telling Benny, he says, "Heroes get remembered, but legends never die." And then he says, "Follow your heart, kid, and you can't go wrong." And I remember thinking that and being like, what does that mean? Like, how do I follow my heart? Sometimes I feel like my heart sends me mixed signals. Like, there are times when I've followed my heart and felt like, oh, that it worked out well. Other times where maybe not so much. When I was in seventh grade, I was pretty convinced my heart was telling me that I needed to be with this girl in the senior class. And that didn't work out, And so how do you know? How do you know when your heart is going to lead you in the right place? The question really is, what are we talking about when we're talking about the heart? What do we mean when we're talking about the heart? The heart is actually a buzzword, not just in the church, but in our culture, right? You talk about like broken-hearted people, and you might think like everyone uses it, and we've always used the term this way, but that's actually not true. In some cultures, especially ancient cultures, they use different body parts to, like instead of the heart, like the intestines, which is really hot. Like to be like, I love you with 10 out of the 12 feet of my intestines, Or like the inside parts, right? They use other words in the place of what we would use for the heart. But we talk about having a broken heart, right? Is his heart in the right place? Achy, breaky heart. My heart will go on. Total eclipse of the heart. Shot to the heart, right? That's a big thing in our culture. We talk about the heart a lot. The heart is also a concept in the church. If you've been in the church, I'm sure you've heard people talk about the heart, right? Like guard your heart, search your heart, check your heart. You can have a hardened heart you can trust with your heart. You can have a heart of unbelief. Like there's all these ideas. Sometimes in the church we'll make a distinction between the head and the heart. Like one's logical, one's, And so, like, what do we mean? What do we mean when we're talking about the heart? Well, for the most part, really in the church and in our culture, when we're talking about the heart, often we're talking about feelings, emotions. Like you love with your heart. If someone is totally like stone cold, we say they're heartless. It's the emotional, the warm and fuzzies, right? Or not just feelings, but desires. Like the desire of the heart. We talk about wants and feels, emotions and desires, which there's definitely some truth to that. But if that's where it ends, right, then following your heart, what are you saying? You're saying, well, you should do what you really want to do. And maybe you've watched some people just totally, set their lives on fire by following their heart because they're going off of their emotions in the moment. Sometimes emotions change. So, like, is there more to it than that? If you look at the way that Jesus spoke about the heart, and the way that followers of Jesus after him spoke about the heart, and even how writers of the ancient Jewish scriptures talked about the heart. They talked about the heart not just as the seat of emotions and desires, but as the place primarily, first and foremost, the place where we keep our beliefs. What you believe is stored in the heart. And so you might see, like if you know the story of Moses, the guy who parted the Red Sea, 10 Commandments, the Pharaoh, he goes up to Pharaoh and starts talking to him, and we hear that Pharaoh had a hardened heart. What does that mean? It means he didn't believe. In another place in the New Testament, we see one of the writers talk about having a heart of unbelief. You can trust with all your heart. Probably in the clearest place throughout the entire New Testament, the Apostle Paul, who we've talked about a lot, early church leader, he says, like very clearly, point blank, he says, for it is with your heart that you believe. The heart is the place where we keep our beliefs. Now, it's not to say that our emotions and desires are not in the heart, but beneath those are beliefs. Every emotion, every feeling you have is rooted to a belief. Every desire you have is rooted to a belief. You want what you want because you believe what you believe. You feel what you feel because you believe what you believe. So think about it like this. Like, let's say you're really into this girl, okay? And you're talking to her, things going really well, saying all the right things, like really taking off, great relationship. And all of a sudden you see she's spending time with somebody else from a distance. You're like, oh, what's going on there? You see he's like writing on her, commenting on her, whatever you use. And you're like, what? And what do you start to feel? Feel jealousy, right? What's going on there? Well, that jealousy, that feeling, that emotion is anchored to the belief that individual is posing some kind of threat to your future with this person, right? Now, if I were to come up to you with like all the jealousy you're feeling and be like, oh, no, hey, that's her cousin. Don't worry about that. All of a sudden, gone. I mean, unless they're like weird. But really, instantly, once you change the belief, it's gone. It's gone. Beneath every desire, you want what you want. If you really want to have a sandwich, but I tell you, no, that meat is bad, right? All of a sudden, the belief like totally disarms the desire. It's rooted to a belief. At the very bottom, at the core level, the heart is the place where we keep our beliefs, right? So, if that's true, then we can take it a step further. And the writer, his name's Solomon. He was known as the wisest person ever. He was actually the son of David from David and Goliath. He came before Jesus. Here's what he says. He takes this whole idea. You want what you want because you believe what you believe. You feel what you feel because you believe what you believe. And you might remember this from our Heart 6 series. He says this. He says, above all else, guard, give attention to, pay attention to, prioritize what's going on in the heart. Why? For everything you not just feel, not just want, but do flows from it. Not just desires, not just feelings, but how we live comes from what we believe. The good things, the bad things, the big things, the small things. There is a belief beneath your behavior. Your beliefs that's pretty good. There's a belief beneath the behavior, or we could say your beliefs determine your behavior. Your beliefs determine your behavior. So if you want to eat something, right? You want to eat it, you're going to eat it because of what you believe about it. And it could be a big thing too. If you pursue some career and you've been extremely successful and things have gone really well for you and you did that because of what you believed about choosing that path. Maybe you believed you were going to be able to provide for your family. Maybe you believed like that was, how you were going to feel most sad. But there was a belief that drove you to that. And so if you take this again a step further, when you have issues, On the outside, they can be traced back to issues on the inside. The way we said it before is outside issues are always caused by inside problems. Problems of behavior are caused by problems of belief. If you're with us for the Heart 6 series, you remember when we said that, like, how Jesus explained that, like, from the heart, problematic ways of thinking are set in motion. And they come out in all sorts of different ways. Talks about stealing, killing, like all this. It comes from ultimately what you believe in the heart. And what's amazing about this, it's almost like magic. If you can speak to the belief beneath the behavior, the belief that's determining the behavior, you can totally change the behavior. So my daughter, Mia, she's 7 years old, but when she was younger, she was always tempted to touch the barbecue. So I'd be outside, be sitting there like cooking, I'd see her walking toward it, I'd be like, don't touch, and I'd get in her face, don't touch. Well, you probably see where this story's going. At some point, she reached up and she touched it, and it was hot. And she cried. I mean, she was fine, but she cried. It was painful. But that day, she came to believe that she would be hurt if she touched that. And never again was it a temptation for her. Because the belief, she had to learn the hard way, but she did come to believe that this was not a good thing. And so every time she'd walk by, there was no temptation. She's like a little kid, she'd walk by, she'd be like, that's hot. Like all the time, barbecue, hot. Like it stuck with her. It changed her belief. The problem with us, and this is what I want you to take home with you. The problem with us is that we naturally, instinctively address the behavior, not the belief. And if you don't address the belief, you cannot change the behavior. Like even in my story with my daughter, right? What did I do? I was like, don't touch. What is that? That's speaking to the behavior. But what if I went a little bit deeper and spoke to the belief beneath the behavior, or tried to get into the motivational structure of the heart, right? What if I tried to explain, what if maybe I turned on the barbecue a little bit and let her feel it get warm and like a little bit warmer? Didn't have to say, don't touch it, but just let her see, oh, it's getting hotter. Maybe I let it get hot, take some water and splash it on the grill and let it sizzle. If she comes to believe that it's hot, she wouldn't do it. It would totally change the behavior. But we tend to focus on the behavior, not the belief. That's what's natural for us. We live not as if your beliefs determine your behavior. We live as if willpower determines behavior. Willpower. Like our white-knuckled attempt at behavioral modification. Like, and we even talk this way. I'll try. I will try harder. And the issue with this is that it does not work. The belief will always beat out your willpower. It's pretty interesting. Over the past several decades, there have been a lot of studies done on willpower. What we found is that willpower is like a muscle. It's like a muscle. Like you work it and it actually gets tired. There's this experiment done with college students. A lot of experiments done with college students. I guess they like to torture college students. But they took a bunch of students, they put them in a room, and they made them work on a puzzle that had no solution for a certain amount of time. That's torture. They just had them do it for a while. And then afterwards, they came out with two snacks, a healthy one and a not healthy one, and they let them choose. And they had a bunch of other people come in and choose snacks. And what they found is that there was a huge connection between those who had already taxed their willpower and whether or not they decided to choose the healthy snack. Like it actually got them tired. And there are more and more experiments that came out proving the same exact thing. Meaning, like, willpower is a muscle, eventually gets tired. If you go to the gym, you know, like, let's say you bench press, right? It doesn't matter how light the bar is. At some point, you can't go up any further. At some point, the muscle fails. And so at some point, the willpower is gonna give up. So we will always fall back into our bad, destructive behaviors if we don't address the beliefs, right? So we talk about muscle, right? Think about it like this. Have you ever just like taken a brick and tried to hold it out? You're working your muscle, right? It's hard. Eventually, you start to get really tired. Eventually, it's going to fail, right? And so this is what we do. Do you have any issues, any habits, any struggles, any things that keep coming up over and over and over again, and you've tried to beat it, but you've failed? Like maybe you have an issue with anger, right? And it's like, all right, she's coming over again. I'm gonna try and be nice. I'll try to be nice, but then she brings it up and it's like, no, I can't. I tried. And we'll use that language. I tried. I didn't have the strength. I was weak. And we talked about this. There's a belief beneath that behavior, but if you just address, like, I'm gonna try not to be angry, eventually you're gonna get tired of trying. Or maybe it's an issue with anxiety for you, right? Like I'm not talking about like clinically, I'm talking about just worry, circumstantial worry. I'm gonna try not to worry. I'm gonna try. Something else happens, I just can't do it anymore. It's just too much. I'm trying, or maybe it's an addiction, right? Maybe it's something like pornography or substance abuse. It's a huge issue in our culture, but it's like more in the secret, right? And so we say, all right, this is a bad habit I'm not proud of. I'm gonna try harder. I'll try. And then we try. We try for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, but then you fail. Because we're constantly addressing the behavior. Maybe it's a spending thing for you. All right, next time I'll be better. Like I got to get my finances together. I'm going to try. But I saw it and I really wanted it, and you can't. And so we try, and we try, and we try. But eventually, if you don't address the belief beneath the behavior, the muscle will fail. This is styrofoam. There's a belief beneath every behavior. An outside issue is caused by an inside problem. We did a whole message on anger, right? And so instead of just like, she's coming, he's coming over, I'm gonna try and be nice. Like what we said is that really when you're angry, there's this feeling like something's been taken from you, like you owe me. There's been an injustice. Whether it's respect, or whatever. Maybe something literally has been taken. Maybe you're angry at your dad because he wasn't there. I deserved a father who was there for me and you weren't. Now I'm angry at you. I deserved a mother who cared and you didn't. I didn't deserve to be treated, and there's this feeling like you owe me. And we went deep into it, right? If you want to go back, it's in the Heart 6 series. We talked about how you have to do something with that debt. You either have to forgive it, you have to acknowledge what's been taken, maybe bring it to that person and say, listen, I genuinely feel like you took this from me. And when you get to that belief that's causing you to feel that anger, well, now you can at least have a place to start. And it's not a muscle that you're exercising. If you're anxious about something, the worst thing you could tell someone who's worrying is not to worry. That's the worst thing you can say. Like, okay, I haven't tried that, But you could just try, like, all right, I was anxious, so I'm gonna try, like, to have peace. And what, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go, eventually you get tired of just trying, but if you stop and say, okay, what is it that I believe here? Right now, a lot of people are anxious about sending their kids back to school. A lot of parents are anxious about sending their kids back to school. Well, stop, why are you anxious? And there are definitely some legitimate reasons, but why are you anxious? Are you worried about the difficulties, the struggles that they're gonna have to face? Are these all bad things? My wife Allie and I, we just went through something similar not too long ago. My daughter, she was interested in being in this play, and so she tried out for the play, and I found out there were 2 days, just 2 days of tryouts before they find out what their roles are. And right away I start to worry, what if she's not gonna get the part that she wants to get? And those teachers don't even know her, and all those kids have been there for longer, and it takes her a while to warm up to people, and they're not really gonna know how great she is. And it's like, we start just worry, and then we just stop. I'm like, hold on, what's the belief here that's causing this worry? The belief is that it'll be a bad thing if she doesn't get exactly what she wants. Maybe she needs to get a less desirable role in the play. Maybe she needs to learn that there's a time to stand in the background and cheer for the people who are in the spotlight. Or that the kid who gets the main role has been there for 3 years, and that's what happens when you put in time and work. And so, just stepping back from that, it was really there's nothing to worry about. Okay, maybe she gets a great part, maybe she doesn't. There's something good that can come out of this. But we just stop it I know I shouldn't worry. I know, I stop. Maybe you have some kind of addiction, like I said, pornography or substance abuse. There is a belief there. When you choose to like indulge in whatever it is, there is a belief. Probably the belief has something to do with, like, you're telling yourself that the relief that you're gonna feel, the temporary relief or satisfaction that you're gonna feel in that moment is gonna be worth what it's gonna cost you. And so maybe if like there's really something you're struggling with, look into what is this going to cost? What does this do to my mind? What is this doing to my health? What is this doing, like this drinking, doing to the people that I live with? How do my kids feel about this? Just go, but we just stop it. Like, I know I shouldn't do it, it's not great. But like once you get deeper and you understand, okay, hold on a second, now I realize what this is costing. And when you see people make a change, that's how they speak. I realized what it was costing me. I realized the damage it was doing. I came to believe something. And so I changed. If it's a spending thing, right? That's a big deal. A lot of times people who have trouble spending money are people who are already in financial difficulty. And often in that situation, there is a belief that we will never get out of debt. And so you figure out, okay, really that's why. That's why, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try and be better with money. But then I see those $200 shoes, and I'm like, I don't really need it, but I should be saving money. But we're so deep in debt, does it really matter? No, and so it's worth it. And so, but you sit down with someone, do the work, figure out how to actually, and you'll see, there is hope. There is hope. And that's what changes. You see someone all of a sudden get their finances together, it's like we realized what things could look like in the future if we started making better everyday decisions. We came to believe something. But if you just try, I just gotta be better, and all that ambiguity, and don't get down to the belief beneath the behavior, there will never be that sense of improvement. You'll never make progress. It comes from the heart. The belief will always win. In my house, I was doing some plumbing. So this is gonna be a great story. I was fixing the sink, was putting in a different sink, and I set up the new sink, and then there was the one that was connected to the old sink, and I was using PEX with this plastic piping. It's much easier to work with than metal. And all you gotta do is cut it, and you snap it together, and I'm like, okay, great, quick, it's right here, just gotta plug that into that. I can do that real quick, don't need to turn the water off. And so, I was wrong. And I cut it, and I don't know where this water pressure came from. I don't have that kind of water pressure in my shower, but it was this crazy amount of water just comes firing out, and I'm sticking my finger into just doing everything. I'm screaming for my wife, turn the water off. She's like, I don't know where the water comes in the house. And I'm like, this is terrible. Bad news. And for a second, I was able to hold it, but it just was harder and harder and harder until it came out. And that's what some of us are doing. It's all right, I'm gonna try, but if you genuinely believe something, it's only a matter of time until the belief makes its way into the behavior. We're trying to change through white-knuckled behavior modification. So, how do you know if someone has had a change of heart? Back to our questions we started with, how do you know? Well, have they changed what they believe? They're back. They want to be in the relationship again, or whatever the situation is. Somebody says I had a change of heart. What changed? Well, I've come to realize the damage that I've done. I've come to believe this is not worth it. Something internally, that's a change of heart. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but that's a change of heart. I'm sorry and I'm going to try. That is not. That I'm going to try harder, that's not a change of heart. How do you know if you should follow your heart? Well, what are the beliefs that are in your heart? If you're trying to decide, should I become a nurse? Well, what is driving you that way? Do you believe that that's how you've been equipped, that you love taking care of people and you'll feel a sense of satisfaction doing what you feel like you were made to do? That might be a good thing. You should ask some people's advice, but go for it. Do you believe that nurses make a lot of money and you want to make a lot of money because that's what makes people happy? And at the end of the maybe the belief that money equals happy is something that doesn't necessarily stand the test of life, right? Maybe that's a belief that's not true. And so maybe you shouldn't. The belief will always determine the behavior, and we are too quick to overlook what's going on in the heart. I'll tell you one more, real practical story. My wife and I, just 2 weeks ago, we were in Fire Island, on Fire Island. We spent a couple days there, and the last night, we were gonna go out before we left. It was we were gonna take the 9:40 ferry. We had a little bit of time left, and so we were looking for a restaurant. Last weekend, I got really sick, so it was great that we canceled church, but I was getting really sick, and this was Thursday, and the sickness, Thursday night, was just starting to come on. You know, when you can, taste it in the back of your throat, and it's okay, it's gonna be a rough couple days. That was starting to come on. And we're walking around Ocean Beach, we're looking for a restaurant, and we go into one, and there's a ton of people there, and it's gonna be a long wait, and I'm like, no, let's not, let's go to a different, we go to another one, it's the same situation, and I feel myself just starting to get irritable and angry. And we keep going to the next one, and then we start playing the what do you want to do's. You ever play that game? What do you want to do? I don't know. What do you want? And I'm just getting angry. And Allie she's picking up on it. She's like, what's the problem? You can do whatever you want. And things start getting a little tense between us. And I know it's me, because she's happy, and I'm just mad. I'm like, what's going on here? And so, while I don't always do this, right? But I just, took a minute, went away, went into one of the bathrooms by the ferry. I was like, what's actually happening right now in the heart? Where is this flowing from? I came back out and told her, I was like, listen, you know what? I'm starting to feel really sick, and I honestly don't want to go to one of these restaurants, but I feel like if I don't, I'm going to let you down. I feel like you're going to be disappointed. And what was happening is that I was starting to hold that against her without even knowing if it were true. So I find myself here in a bad mood, and she was like, oh, you don't feel well? Okay, let's sit on a bench. And we got some Gatorade and ice cream, which is what you should have when you're sick. But sometimes the beliefs that are driving us, the way we feel, sometimes they're crazy. Sometimes they're totally not rooted in reality. We'll just take the time to be like, why am I mad right now? And bring it to the light, some of the New Testament writers talk about taking things from the darkness and bringing it just exposes the craziness of it. So my question for you, what are your issues right now? What are the habits that you've tried to beat? The failures that you've tried to get over, the things that you're not proud of in your life, the things that you have tried, that you have used willpower to try and conquer. And maybe you've fallen back. What are they? And will you do the work to think about what's the belief? What's driving me to act this way? Maybe it's not based in reality. In your relationships, maybe there's an issue. It keeps coming up, and you both keep trying, but it keeps coming up. What's the belief? Why does he keep doing that? Why does she keep doing that? What's going on? Can we get to the belief with your kids and the way that you parent? Yeah, I just coincidentally read something the other day. They were like, if your kid is scared of something in the closet, the worst thing you could do is tell them not to be afraid. The best thing you could do is pick them up, bring them to the closet, show them there's nothing to be afraid of. Help them to believe that they have nothing to be afraid of. When we parent, are we speaking to the beliefs that are causing our children to do what they're doing, or are we speaking to the behavior? Above all else, guard, attend to, give attention to, spend time on what's going on in the heart. For everything you do, good, bad, big, small, significant, insignificant, everything you do flows from it. Let's pray. God, we're grateful. We are grateful for the way you love us, for the way that you speak to our hearts, for the way you work on our hearts, for the way you've challenged us to follow you in our faith, in the things that we believe. God, would you help us to be the kind of people that give attention to what's going on the inside, in our relationships, in our homes, at work, in our lives. Would you encourage us? Would you lift us up when we fail? Would you remind us that our failures, do not mean that we are less valuable to you. It doesn't change the way that you love us or whether or not you love us. But help us, God, to do the hard work. Would you search our hearts and show us what's going on within us? In Jesus' name we pray.